اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد.
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, as we're aware, Asr Salah will be 6:30 tomorrow, so I personally won't be here to do any more sessions this Ramadan, inshallah, because it'll be a bit late, and then inshallah should be going for itikaf. So I request everybody to do dua for me, and inshallah I'll be doing dua for all the people that come to the masjid and those who listen at home, because we are one community, we are one family. Everybody's going to go and meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the grave, and us being kind to each other, us helping each other, supporting the masjid, these are the things that are going to get us a nice cover. These are the things that are going to get us a nice abode in the akhirah. We say we want to practice Islam, but we don't want to do it with the people around us. This is the place to do it. I say to my kids in my school as well, in our madrasa, they want to be good, they want to be kind, they want to help someone. You know, Islam says all these things, be kind, smile at people, be charitable, but they don't want to do it in school, because in school they want to have that kind of, image, like I'm a cool kid, I don't want to act all pious. But in actual fact, 6 hours of your daily life, your awake hours, are spent in the madrasa or in the school, and this, if you're not going to do it there, then you'll hardly find any time in the evening. So inshallah today, I thought I'll speak about time management, and I took some notes from Sheikh Suleiman from South Africa. He gave a wonderful speech regarding this. So I thought I'd talk to your students, our students, and our beloved brothers and sisters listening at home as well, regarding this subject. Because in Ramadan, we were talking about, Ramadan's coming, we only got another few weeks left, I'm going to do good this Ramadan, watch what I do. And that is actually what happened in the first 2 or 3 days. I know it happens to everybody. In the first 2 or 3 days of Ramadan, we give it our all. We go 100%. We're reading, don't forget, 1 juz a day. We made another reading 1 juz, we read about 4 on the first day. And we think, yes, look at that, I'm already done 4, inshallah, it'll be easy to do one khatam. But then what happens is, slowly but surely, people tend to run out of juice, battery goes down, and then we end up not reading 1 juz a day. We don't read any juz for a couple of days, and then you feel bad, then you say, astaghfirullah, let me carry on. Because this is insan, this is life. So this is why it's very important we talk about time management. And a Muslim's life it revolves around an active timetable. A Muslim's life has to have some kind of timetable, not just wake up whatever time I want, go to sleep whatever time I want. I had a friend who went to university. Once he came back from university, not that they all do this, mashallah, they study hard in university, but him personally, what they do is in their spare time or in the holidays or their study time where they have to study themselves, there's no classes going on, what they do is they waste time. And he came to me and he said to me, Junaid, guess what? I haven't seen the sun for about 3 months. He said, I haven't seen the sun for 3 months. And I said, what do you mean you haven't seen the sun? He says, all night we're wasting our time. We go to these places where we're not supposed to go during the night, and we come back about 4 a.m. in the morning. Then we go to sleep. And then we don't know what time we're going to wake up. We wake up about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Imagine that, and Maghrib's at 4 o'clock in the winter times. So this is what happens. So people, if you don't have a timetable, you will lose out on a lot. Even Ramadan now, we need to have a timetable for our azkar, after Fajr maybe, after Maghrib maybe, Quran Tilawa, maybe after Asr. Everybody's got their own timetable, people go to their own work, people got their own jobs, people are going to school, so we have to make a timetable and fit it in somewhere and make sure we put it in that time. Every single day we gotta be paband, and we gotta be firm upon this. And like we'll hear from Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, he talks about this. We'll talk about that later on inshallah. So now, like we said, there's a dua from the Sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam where he says, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min shatatil amr. Oh Allah, I seek your refuge from my affairs being disorganized. So Allah, I seek your refuge from being a disorganized person. So this is one of the things that we learn. Muslims now, we look at our salah. Salah was ordained at its fixed hours. The Muslim's life revolves around the Salah. Allah Ta'ala could have said to you, oh, wake up in the morning and read 5 Salah. That's enough. You've done your duty for the day. But no, the Salah has been put at specific times. Something to, we can learn from this, that our life should revolve around the Salah and around, we need to regulate our day with the time of Salah. Our day should be regulated with the time of Salah. Zohr's at this time, okay, I can do my homework then. You're on holidays now. Asr's at this time, I'm going to do my tilawah now. 2 juz, 1 juz, half a juz, whatever it is. After Maghrib, I'll do my iftar, do some azkar and all this, and then wait for Isha. Tarawih time, or even before Tarawih, we can do some recitation of the Quran and many other things. Put in things, like things like visiting the elderly, visiting the sick people. This is the time to do it. We hear about the rewards of visiting the sick people, going helping out other people. If we can't do it now in our holidays, talking to the students now, then when are we going to do it? Ramadan and our holidays, we're free. We can go to our grandmother's, maybe ask her if she needs any help going shopping, go to anybody who's ill, find out, phone them, visit them if you can. These kind of things are very, very important. So now, generally we have our timetable in Ramadan, but sometimes we go up and down, so this is something that we need to look at. Now, look at time. Hasan al-Basri. Hasan al-Basri was a tabi'i. Tabi'i means he saw the Sahaba. He saw the Sahaba in his life. He said something regarding the Sahaba. He said, كان أحدهم أشح على عمره منه على درهم. And this is an amazing statement. كان أحدهم, every one of them, أشح, he was more greedy. أشح على عمره منه على درهم. They were more conscious and more controlling over their time. Umr means life and time. They were more possessive of their time than they were of their money. They looked after their time more than they looked after their money. If you want money, somebody comes to them, a sa'il comes, you want money? Oh, you want money? Okay, here you are. How much do you want? Are you happy? Alhamdulillah, that's enough. You ask them for a minute, you ask them for some time out, they're very, very hard to find them giving you time. Because they don't want to waste time doing futile things. Now, there's a couple of examples that come to my mind. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari radiyallahu anhu. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari radiyallahu anhu used to be someone who had the opinion that you're not allowed to keep anything in your house for tomorrow. Whatever you have today, he had the opinion, very strict opinion, and he'd go around to the Muslims and say, why are you hoarding all these things in your house? Go and give it into charity. So this is how much they didn't care about wealth. Wealth is important obviously, but he himself, looking at his life, subhanAllah, he'd go to Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu and tell them, look at these palaces you're living in. You shouldn't be having all these. He said, he used to go and argue with people saying that all of this should be given in the path of Allah. He had a bit of he was very strong about this. But everyone knows that he was a bit, too, not extreme, but he had a very stronger approach. Then you had Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. What about him and his money? Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he was the son of Umar radiallahu anhu. So Ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar, regarding him, the incident comes, we read about it in our school the other day, once we were going through the lives of the Sahaba. People went to his wife and said, oh, you're not a good wife to Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar. You're not being a good wife to him because you don't cook food for him. So that's the complaint they had to his wife. Why don't you cook food for your husband? Abdullah ibn Umar is the son of Umar, and you're so lucky to have him in marriage, and you don't even cook food for him. I guess what she said, he goes, what do you mean cook food for him? Every time I used to cook food for him or I made anything, he used to go and give it to the charity, go and give it to the poor. Whenever somebody was knocking our door, he used to go and give it. He would go out giving the poor all the food that I cooked. Maybe he ate a little bit, obviously you got to survive, but majority of the food was given to the poor. And she said once, he said to her, I've got a fast, can you make me fish today? So he asked his wife, can you make me fish today? So she said, I was happy, chalo, one day he's asked me now, let me cook. So she cooked the curry for him. She cooked the meal for him, and just at iftar time, there was a knock on the door. SubhanAllah, knock on the door, and then they found out there was a sa'il, he was a beggar, he wanted some food, he wanted some money. So the day that she cooked for him, she was happy that he's going to give it. Even that day, he got the food and he gave it to the poor people, SubhanAllah. This is how their lives were. Money, it comes and it goes. Alhamdulillah, may Allah gives barakah to all of us in our wealth. Ameen. But we shouldn't make it the aim of our lives. Everything about money, money, money. Allah, money comes and it goes. But they were more possessive over their time and their lives than they were upon their money and wealth, subhanAllah. So this is something to keep in our mind. So this is the qawl of Hasan al-Basri, who is a tabi, who met the Sahaba, ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in. So we're the opposite. We are the opposite. When it comes to money, you ain't gonna get a penny out of me. You want money, you want £5, oh, come back tomorrow, maybe later. You want £20, you want to borrow £1,000, oh, maybe come back next year, come back in a month's time. It's very hard for me. So over our money, it's very, very hard for us. Another incident of Abdullah ibn Umar, once the Amir Muawiyah and the Umayyads, they sent 4,000 dirhams to him, 4,000 dirhams to go as a hadiyah to him. And by the next day, it was all gone, and he was there in the market buying fodder for his animals, like cheap stuff for his animals. All that money was gone. He spent the whole night giving it out in charity. So we're the opposite. When it comes to money, you ain't going to get a penny out of me. It's going to take time. And when it comes to time, they were very possessive over their time. Us, what do? Holidays, playing computer games all night, playing Fortnite all night. Before we know it, 6, 7, 8 hours have gone. There was a boy, I remember in our school, the parent phoned in and he said, have a word with my son. Why? Because they were playing online games until 4 a.m. in the morning, and they would come to school the very next day, just 4 hours of sleep, because they play online games. So for us, we just waste our time. Look, they exploited time objectively. They used their time objectively. Okay, I got this time, I'm going to do this day. I got this time, I'm going to do this day. But while we waste time casually, you just go with the flow. Let's watch Netflix, 1 episode, 2 episodes. Before we know it, we've had a whole binge. We've spent the whole night, 6 hours watching about 20 episodes of our favorite, sitcom. This is what happens in our lives. How much azkar we could have done, how much Quran tilawah we could have done there. But so this is one thing we need to keep in our mind. Especially in the last 10 days, 15 days of Ramadan now, let's not waste our time on consoles and games and watching movies all the time, because Ramadan won't come again. Remember what the people of the Qabr would say? Ibn al-Jawzi said, لَوْ قِيلَ لِأَهْلِ الْقُبُورِ تَمَنَّوْا. If the people of the grave were asked, make a wish, لَتَمَنَّوْا يَوْمًا مِنْ Ramadan, they would ask for one day of Ramadan. We've got our Ramadan, let's not waste it. If you were passed away and you would love to see this Ramadan again, one day of Ramadan, you'll beg for it. But there's no more Ramadans to come because he passed away. So now we should make sure we look after ourselves. Now, Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, a great scholar of the past, Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, he said, I have spent many years with this pious. I've spent many years with the pious people, with the scholars, with the ulama, with the mashayikh. And from all this time I've spent with the scholars, there's two main things that I've learned. Now listen to this now, very important. Imam Shafi is a great scholar himself. He said, I've spent many years with the luminaries of my time, and I've learned two things. Number one, I can like basically bottle it down. I can cut it down to two things, two main things. Number one, what's the first thing that he said? The first thing he said, one of the two main things I've learned from living with all the scholars is al-waqtu kas-sayf. فَإِلَّمْ تَقْتَعْهُ قَطَعَ. Time is like a sword. Al-waqtu kas-sayf. Time is like a sword. فَإِلَّمْ تَقْتَعْهُ. If you don't cut the time will cut you. If you don't utilize this time objectively, the time will play with you. Before you know it, your head full of white hair, your beard's full of white hair, your back's creaking like mine right now. And then you're just you got one foot in the grave. And you're thinking, yes, let me become pious later. Let me start reading salah later. Chalo, we've got time. I'll start giving tarbiyah to my kids when I'm a bit older. When I start praying myself, then I'll give them tarbiyah and nasihah and advice and we'll ta'lim at home. This is something that comes in our mind. When we get married, people just think, yes, inshallah, we have children. But, we have to look after the iman as well. And sometimes we're thinking, oh, I don't pray myself, so then how can I tell my children? But there's no better time than to start right now. So the first thing that he said was time. So we think we're killing time. In essence, time is killing us. We're going to go. There's another saying of Hassan al-Basri that Yabna Adam, innaka ayyamu. Oh, son of Adam, you are just a number of days. When a day goes by, a part of you goes away. And I was telling my kids the other day, I say, SubhanAllah, if you just think about it, we are just days. Every day that goes by, every time that sun sets, a part of you is gone. You'll never get the 13th of April 2022 again in your life. Allah put it once in your life. Remember, if you go to the graveyard, you see the graves. 1905, 1965, died. We were born, whenever you were born, 2010, 11. Some of us older than 1980, 1970, 1960. And our date of death is written somewhere. Allah knows the date of death, 2025 maybe, 2030 maybe. May Allah give us all long, healthy lives with khair and afiyah. Ameen. But our time is coming, so it is like we've got a number of days left. So I said, just imagine everybody on their forehead has got a number of days. Just imagine, I look at you and I see 3065. I see you and I see 365. Oh, you got 1 year left. You here, you might have, 4,000. You might have 40,000. But the only thing is that we can't see it. Subhanallah. We are a number of days. Just think about it. There's so many things that, come to my mind. Now, I remember Sheikh Abdul Rahim of Darul Bari, he was with Tafsir once and he mentioned a hadith where the Sahaba asked, where the Messenger of Allah said, Kayfa an'am? How can I live a life of luxury? How can I live a life of, have all the gold in the world, have all the, everything that a person needs? Because he was offered everything. The kuffar of Makkah said, we'll give you money, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. You just don't preach towards Allah. He said, no. He said, Kayfa anam? So he said, how can I live a life of luxury? Listen to this one now. وَقَدْ الْتَقَمَ صَاحِبُ الْقَرْنِ قَرْنَهُ. When the state is this, وَقَدْ الْتَقَمَ صَاحِبُ الْقَرْنِ قَرْنَهُ, that the one with the bugle or the trumpet has got it in his hand. Iltaqama means pakar liya. How can I live a life of luxury and just chilling out when I know the one with the trumpet has got it in his hand? وَأَصْغَى سَمْعَهُ وَيَنْتَظِرْ لِأَنْ يُؤْمَرَ فِيهِ فَيَنْفُخَ فِيهِ وَيَنْتَظِرْ لِأَنْ يُؤْمَرَ بِالنَّفْخِ فَيَنْفُخَ فِيهِ. He said, how can I chill out when I know, these are my words, chill out. How can I chill out when I know the angel with the trumpet has got it in his hand? وَأَصْغَى سَمْعَهُ, and he's listening out. You put an ear out. Oh, is the command come yet? Is he saying something happening yet? So the angel is وَأَصْغَى سَمْعَهُ, he's listening out for what? لِأَنْ يُؤْمَرَ بِالنَّفْخِ, that he is commanded to blow, فَيَنْفُخَ فِيهِ, and there is a blow and the world will come to an end. إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. They think that Qiyamah is long way away, وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا, and we think as close. It is close. كُلُّ مَا هُوَ آتٍ قَرِيبٍ. Everything that's going to come is qareeb for us. Your death is your Qiyamah. مَنْ مَاتَ فَقَدْ قَامَتْ قِيَامَتُهُ. Whoever dies, then his Qiyamah has started. So this is it. We've got a number of days left. We can't see the number. As soon as that comes, our Qiyamah has started. May Allah have mercy upon one of our teachers. His son, the other day his son died. He was only 5 years old. And he was saying that, subhanAllah, nothing wrong with him. Normal Jawan, playing around. We had plans for him to go to this, school or that. He had clothes, everything ready. Nothing wrong with him. All of a sudden, he didn't eat. He stopped eating, a 5-year-old child. And after that, he didn't eat. They took him to the doctors, took him here and there. Nobody knew what was happening. Then they found out he had an infection somewhere in his stomach or something. And then he went into ICU. And within 4 or 5 days, he was gone. He left this world. And this can happen to anybody. So we should be always doing shukr of Allah Ta'ala, even upon afiyah, upon health. We should say, Alhamdulillah, Ya Allah, I haven't got illness. Because you can go and ask the people who are ill. Go and tell the person, ask the person who's blind how important eyes are. Go and ask the person on the wheelchair how important legs are. You understand? It's very, very important. Even doing sujood, such a great blessing. So these kind of things we've got to think about. Now, Imam Shafi'i said, yes, there's 2 things that I've learned. Number 1 was, who remembers? What's the first thing that he learned from the Mashayikh? Al-waqtu kas-sayf. Time is like a sword. If you don't cut the time will cut you. Yeah? Number 2 was, he said the ego, the nafs. I learned from this Mashayikh 2 things. Look after your time. If you don't mess around the time, your life will go by, and before you know it, you're going home. to your real home in the grave. And number two I've learned from them is your ego. Look after your nafs, your desires. You want to do haram, you want to do bad. Because وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Your nafs is ammara bisu. Your nafs is always trying to do wrong. Shaitan may be locked up, but it's our nafs that is trying to entice us towards evil. Now, so he said regarding the nafs, شغلتها بالحق. No, شغلتها بالحق أو شغلتك بالباطل. He said, what I learned from these mashayikh is your nafs. If you don't make your nafs, if you don't preoccupy, and if you don't make your nafs busy in haqq and good things, شغلتك بالباطل, it's gonna make you turn the other way and make you busy in the sin and the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we gotta have, with our nafs, with our ego, with our desires, we gotta have a do or die attitude. I'm going to pray salah this time, even though I don't feel like it, I'm going to do it. You got to put that step on your nafs. The mashayikh say, if one step is on your nafs, your next foot is in Jannah. So you got to control your nafs. So Imam Shafi'i said the second thing I learned from them is control your nafs. If you don't control your nafs and have a do and die attitude, your nafs will make you go towards the wrong. So you're going to pray at this time, I'm going to do it. I don't care if I don't feel like it, I'm going to do it. Fight yourself. Yeah, to do all these good things, inshallah. Otherwise, we know what happens. Hours upon hours go by. Even on social media, forget these computer games that these kids play. Some of this YouTube now as well. They got all these things that YouTube shorts. They make you watch these small things, small snippets that you keep on, browsing. You're turning left, turning right. Flicking up. Like you have your TikToks and everything. These are many hours have gone wasted of people at this time, especially Muslims. Ramadan time should not be spent wasting our time on these kind of apps. The last thing I finish off with now, really time now, is an example of somebody who looked after their time, and he had a timetable. Now this man was Sa'id bin Amir radiallahu anhu. Sa'id bin Amir was sent by Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. So the Sahaba, Hazrat Umar was the leader of the Muslims now. The Prophet had passed away. Hazrat Abu Bakr then passed away. Now Umar was the leader of the Muslims. So what he did was, there's a place called Hims. Hims now was a place in Syria where it was known as Kuwaifatul Sughra. It was known as the small Kufa. What do you mean by small Kufa? Kufa had a habit of people complaining about their governors. The Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar al-Khattab now, he's going to send governors in different cities. Or you go there, you be my ambassador in this city, that city. Any problem people have, you go to him. So Abdullah ibn Hazrat Umar, he sent Sa'id bin Amir to Hims. Remember that now. So Hazrat Umar sent his best person, because the people in Hims used to complain like the people of Kufa. That's why they called it a small Kufa, because the people, they were always moaning and groaning about their leaders. They go to the Amir al-Mu'mineen and say, oh, he's not a good man, he does this, that. So he sent Sa'id bin Amir to Hims, and he said to them, I'm going to send you one of the best people. So Sa'id bin Amir went, and he was the governor of Hims now. So after a while, Umar bin Khattab, he went to Hims, and he's a main man, he's Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he said to the people, okay, now I've sent my Sa'id bin Amir, how do you find him? Is he a good selection? Was he good? And they said, Nashku ilayka arba'an min af'alihi. He's a good guy, but we got 4 complaints. They got 4 complaints. Still had complaints. Now what are the 4 complaints that you had against this man who Umar sent, and he thought, this is a good guy, I'm sending him the best person. Now, so Umar bin Khattab being Umar, he gathered all the people around. Everybody come here. On one side he had Sa'id bin Amir, and the other side was him. He's going to ask him the questions. So he asked the people, what's your first complaint against Sa'id bin Amir? This is the man. And he said, before they goes, when they said we got 4 complaints, Hazrat Umar said, Allahumma la tukhayyib raja'i fi. Oh Allah, don't disappoint me. Allah, I thought, he's the best person. Now they got complaints even against him. What's going to happen? So number 1, they came and they said, what's your first complaint? The first complaint was, لا يخرج إلينا حتى يتعالى النهار. He's the man that looks after us. He's the man that we go to for any complaints, any fighting, any arguments. You go to him because he's like the Amir al-Mu'mineen, but he's not here obviously. He's just the ambassador, the governor for him. So any complaints, he's supposed to sort it out. So their complaint was, he doesn't come out of his house until early afternoon. That's one complaint we got about him. Now what was his answer? Umar bin Khattab said, yes, is that true? He goes, yes. So Umar bin Khattab said, what's your reason now? This is a complaint that people have come, you should be always accessible for the people. He said, look, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, I want you to keep this a secret. But now that you put me on the spot, I gotta say it. The secret was this, that look, my wife's ill. She's been ill for a long time. And I don't have a khadim. I don't have a servant or a slave. So look at this is the leader, the governor, and he's living a simple life, subhanAllah. So he said, I don't have a khadim. So every morning, I do all the chores in the house. I do all the, whether it's cooking, whether it's the atta, getting the flour ready, cleaning the house. I do all them. Look at the men of those days. Look at how much they helped in the house. That was his timetable. Remember this, talking about time management. That was his timetable. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I don't have time in the morning. I have to spend that time with my wife, so look after the house, cook for her, she's ill. And then Umar bin Khattab said, I'm happy with that answer. Are you guys happy? And they said, yes, we're happy with that answer. So one thing's gone. What's the second complaint? The second complaint they had was, La yujibuna bilayl. He doesn't answer us at night time. Whenever we want to go to him at night, after Isha Salah, he's gone. There's no, if you got any arguments, anything we need to deal, we need to go to him, but we can't find him at night. He's never in our guys. After Isha Salah, he's gone. So then Umar bin Khattab looked at him and said, look, in the evening, you need to, what's your answer now? So his answer was, جَعَلْتُ النَّهَارَ لَهُمْ وَجَعَلْتُ اللَّيْلَ لِلَّهِ Subhanallah. He goes, I made the day for them, but I made my night for Allah. My nights are for Allah. I need to sit with my Allah. I need to cry to my Allah. Timetable again, guys. Time management. Morning time, he's with his wife, he's cooking, he's cleaning, he's doing all that. Night time, he's crying to Allah, he's in Tahajjud Salah, he's in, whatever he's doing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Umar bin Khattab looks at him and goes, I'm fine with that. What about you guys? Then they said, okay. These are people of Iman. These are people that loved Allah. They spent their time, doing sujood and crying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We love Umar because he was strong and, we all heard the stories that he was brave. But how many of us love Umar because he had marks on his cheeks? He had marks on his cheeks because that's how much he used to cry in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Prophet's time, the one who couldn't cry was the odd one out. Here, anybody who cries in the masjid or in salah time, he's the odd one out. But in the Messenger of Allah's time, the Sahaba would be always in tears, thinking about the punishment of Allah, asking Allah for His mercy. One Sahabi came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ashku ilayka qaswata qalbi. O Rasulullah, I complain to you, my heart's too hard, I can't cry. I hear about Allah, I hear about Jannah, Jahannam, and I can't cry. The Messenger of Allah said to him, Imsah ra's al-yatim. Go and wipe your head, hand over the head of a yatim, of an orphan. These kind of things, live with the orphans, help the orphans. These are the things that will, inshallah, soften your heart. So inshallah, I know the time is finished now, the kids' parents are outside as well. So we leave it at that, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the two things that Imam Shafi said, look after your time and look after your nafs and your ego. If you do this, inshallah, it'll be very, very beneficial. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a tawfiq to spend. There's two more things, and inshallah next time, the 4 complaints. We've done 2 complaints. The first complaint was, I'll quickly go over the next two complaints. The first complaint was, he didn't come out in the morning. Why? Because he spends time with his wife. No problem. Second complaint was what? What was it again, guys?
That he spends
at night time, you don't see him anywhere. Where is he? He said, the night's for Allah. I don't do that. The third complaint was, there's one day of the month, he never comes out. Every month, there's one day, he never comes out. Umar bin Khattab looked at him and said, why? He said, Ya Rasulullah, look at the simple life. He said, I only have one jora, I only have one suit of clothes. And then he said, and one day of the month I wash my clothes. Because when he's washing his clothes, he can't come out. He only has that one pair of clothes. So he goes, one day of the month I wash my clothes, and by the time it dries, most of the day is gone. That's why I don't come out. Who's going to argue with that answer? So the people said, okay, that's fine. And the last one was, sometimes randomly he starts to cry and he faints We got that complaint again. Why is he doing all this? How come he cries like this and how come he just faints? Guess what the answer was? Subhanallah. He said, when I was a youngster, like a young guy, I wasn't a Muslim. And then once what happened was, one of the Muslims were going to get persecuted. One of the Muslims were going to get killed. Khubayb radiallahu anhu was going to get killed. So I was there. I was a youngster. I was a non-Muslim. And I saw Khubayb getting killed. He was a Sahabi. And I laughed. And I was so happy. I was chilling out with my friends because I was young. And every time, because I laughed at that time, now I'm a Muslim. Every time I think about that, or whenever, sometime when I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking, what's Allah going to say to me that you laugh? My Sahabi was dying. He got killed and you were laughing about that fact. He goes, I get so sad. And I'm thinking, Allah might, not forgive me, that I start crying and I start fainting. So this is the complaint that they had. And obviously, no one's going to argue with that complaint. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to live simple lives, to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to look after our time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to look after our families and attain forgiveness in this Ramadan. And not only in Ramadan, may He give us tawfiq to stay good and steadfast upon the deen for the remainder of our lives. Wa akhiru dawana, ameen, wa akhiru dawana, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد.